This is my UFID. Will everyone wave, please? In 2019, approximately 1.4 million animals that entered the shelter were euthanized, and this is the lowest rate the number has ever been. According to Mel Hansen, euthanasia in shelters has decreased about 66% in the past 20 years, yet over 1 million animals were still euthanized. Shelters have saved the lives of countless animals in need, but they can only do so much. They need the local community to help them give these animals a second chance that they have been so patiently waiting for. An animal is like a built-in best friend. There are so many benefits that come from adopting from a local shelter. I have been a longtime animal lover and I'm a pet owner myself. I have adopted 2 cats and a dog from a shelter. I also volunteer at 2 local shelters, one here in Gainesville and one in my home in Orlando. I will be discussing why is it important to adopt from shelters, how to find your perfect animal, and what you can do to help. So you may ask, why do we need to adopt from shelters rather than from breeders? According to an article by ASPCA, approximately 6.3 million companion animals enter the US shelters every single year. Roughly 1/2 of them are cats and 1/2 are dogs, but other animals from every kind enter the shelter every year also. There is often a negative stigma surrounding the shelters in the US, a stigma that these animals are too damaged or broken, that they have behavioral defects, that they bite or swat or are untrainable, or that they even have disease. All of these stigmas are very incorrect. Most animals that enter the shelter due to no fault of their own. Common reasons for surrender include lack of care time from the owner acquiring health problems, a new animal entering the family, a new baby, a new spouse, or a new boyfriend and girlfriend who doesn't like the dog. My point is, there are plenty of family-oriented animals sitting in cages at shelters because someone couldn't take a minute to help them find a home. Other reasons that animals end up in shelters include being found as a stray, abuse or violence towards the animals, and also hoarding cases. According to an article by Terry Stanchiva, over 10 million animals are abused to death in the US. Forms of abuse can extend way beyond physical abuse, including hoarding behaviors, animal fighting, and neglect. These are all considered very serious forms of abuse to animals. According to the Humane Society of the United States, most cases of animal abuse go unreported. Shelters are the safe house for animals that are recovered from abuse cases. They give the animal a chance to find a loving family. When deciding whether to adopt from a shelter, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind to have a successful adoption. According to Save a Pet Rescue, the key to finding the right animal is to know what you are looking for before you go in. Do you want an animal that can run with you every single day? One that loves to watch movies on the couch and snuggle with you? How about one who loves water and going on adventures? Keep your desired characteristics of an animal in your head when heading to the shelters. Most animals have biographies on their cards that show what they like. One of the false stigmas around animal shelters is that the animals are misbehaved and unpredictable. Some of those animals have been in the shelters for hundreds and hundreds of days, interacting with the staff every day and learning how to be a lovable pet. There is a whole team at each shelter that dedicates their days to training the animals in their care and to prepare them for a chance at our home, so that they are ready for the day that someone finally chooses to take them home with them. When you order a puppy online or buy one from a breeder off of Facebook, there is just as much or more uncertainty about the behavior of the animal. The animal may not necessarily have the same behavior as its parents, and it may not follow the trend of the breed that you were looking for. I understand that not all shelter animals could necessarily win a beauty pageant, but they often have the biggest hearts and have the most love to give of them all. While animals can be a lot of work, they prove to be worth the effort in the long run. As fun as it is to have a pet, your pet is only a portion of your life. You are the entirety of your pet's life. You quite literally mean everything to them. Owning a pet also requires expenses. but there are plenty of cost-effective ways to own a pet. This can include buying toys on sale, buying food in bulk, and according to Sherman from NBC, the biggest money saver is adopting from a shelter because your animal is microchipped, fixed, fully vaccinated, and most of them are house trained before they're even allowed to leave the shelter. So what difference does this make? When an animal is adopted out of a shelter, not one, but 2 lives are saved. Adoption gives one animal a forever home with you, while also making room for a new animal that's in need. If we adopt animals from a shelter rather than a puppy mill or a breeder, less animals would have to be euthanized per year. According to Mel Hansen, 9 out of 10 of the animals that are euthanized are actually completely adoptable and display no painful or life-threatening conditions or aggression. If less people adopt from shelters, euthanasia rates will increase again, and shelters will be forced to stuff in more dogs and cats rather than give their current residents the attention they need to be good and loving pets. The reality is, there are some animals that sit in the shelter looking through their cages for hundreds of days. Sometimes they are brought out to play, only to be put right back in and left alone with no owner. Imagine sleeping on a cold tile floor behind bars for the better half of a year. Imagine doing that after experiencing what a home with a family is actually like. That is the case for many of these dogs. If we continue to adopt from puppy mills or replace animals once we're bored from them, the shelter will continue to fill and innocent animals will continue to be put down. What are ways that we can take action, you may ask? The most obvious way is to help adopt an animal in need. However, I know that there are plenty of people that aren't in the position to adopt right now, and that is completely okay. There are still plenty of ways to help a shelter, even if you cannot adopt yet. Most shelters have volunteer programs, foster programs, donation drives, and other donation or charity events that can keep the organizations afloat. Foster programs are an amazing way to get involved without the entire commitment of a pet. For example, the Humane Society of North Central Florida here in Gainesville has a great foster program that gives the animals the opportunity to live a normal and happy life outside the shelter while waiting for their forever home. The Humane Society of North Central Florida provides everything from food, bowls, collars, leashes, litter, carriers, crates, towels, blankets, toys, you name it. They also provide all vet care and after-hours emergency line with other support programs for anything your foster animal may need. As a foster parent, all they ask is that you provide the animal with a safe and loving environment and that you enjoy your time with the animal until he or she is adopted. Fostering also helps make more room for the shelter to take in animals in need. If you don't have the time or space for an animal, that's also okay. Shelters and rescues can always use donations of supplies such as beds, food, litter, treats, and more. Even a simple cash donation can save the life of a rescue pet. If you have any questions about what your local shelter needs, just give them a call. Here are information for 2 local Florida shelters. We have discussed everything necessary to find a fuzzy companion, so now it's your turn. Today I discussed why it's important to adopt from a shelter, how to find your right animal for you, and what you can do to help, even if you can't adopt on your own. But next time you want a furry friend, save money and save a life. Adopt, don't shop. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I'm fostering an animal, do I have to pay for the vet bills and training courses?
No, actually, all of your training courses and vet bills and toys and supplies, all of that is covered by the shelter. So you don't have to pay for anything. There is no commitment other than you giving your pet time and decompressing space and some love while you're waiting to get adopted.
Yes.
Kelly, I have a question. So you mentioned some cost-effective ways to own an animal. Where are some places that I could buy supplies and save money?
So as a pet owner, you probably saw my 2 cats running around. I love to buy all of my supplies from places like Ross or Marshall's or Burlington's another great resource to get cheap toys and other things. Like if you have a cat, litter boxes, toys, catnip spray, cleaning supplies. Those places often have completely affordable and cheap options for those types of things. And for food, I would highly recommend going to a place like Walmart or Chewy where you can buy in bigger amounts, because with the more you buy, the less money it seems to cost. So my biggest advice would be to go to somewhere like Ross or Marshalls for toys, and then Chewy or Walmart for any type of food. And then a lot of times shelters also have they're partnered with like a clinic that has low cost veterinary care as well for any animal in need.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for listening to my speech.